This hunk of metal is one of the oldest things on Earth. In fact, it is older than the Earth itself. It's coming in at a ripe 4.57 billion years old. This is a piece of the Muonionalusta meteorite, which crash landed on Earth 1 million years ago. This meteorite is widely believed to be part of the core of a protoplanet that just did not come to maturity during the beginning of the solar system. As a result, the planet died, broke up, and this rock made its way through the solar system over the millennia, eventually finding its way towards Earth. It crash landed in northern Scandinavia above the Arctic Circle approximately 1 million years ago, making it the oldest impact site where you can actually find remnants of the meteorite in the world. The Muonionalusta meteorite is one of the more famous meteorites in the world, and pieces of it have been used in watches as dials, gear shift knobs, and Rolls Royces, so it's a very popular meteorite. And today I'm going to be working with it as part of the Maker's Challenge. I've always wanted to work with this and make something out of this meteorite. I've had this chunk for a while. It's very expensive, so I'm very nervous, but I'm going to be making something pretty simple. I'm going to make a pendant out of it. I've always wanted to make something that I can carry around with me with this meteorite because it's pretty cool. It's got a cool history behind it, and it's just got some unique features that I'll go into later that really make it special. Let's head into the shop and I'll show you what we're going to do with this thing. Okay, so one of the issues we're going to have is that obviously the dimensions of this are what I'm bound to, so I can't really pick anything bigger, like a pendant size bigger than that thickness, or that thickness, or this square thickness. So I think we'll have to try to find maybe a circular or a oval shaped pendant to make our stencil out of. Nolan's here. He's searching for pendants in there. I gave him a size to look for. We got a big bag full of pendants. We also have pendants over there, so he's looking for that. We'll check back with him in a minute. So I have a stencil here. I think the size that we're gonna have to go with is this one here. It's the only one that's really fitting the dimensions. If we could find a pendant that fits this stencil, that would be awesome. Nolan, what are you finding?
I found this one, Dad.
Yeah? What's good about this one?
Well, I like that it spins.
Yeah.
Number one. And I like the moon design on it because, it fits with the whole space thing, rocks.
All right, well, let me see it. Let's see if it fits. So again, we need that. So let's transfer it over. And it's looking like it's a match. We can measure it real quick. So that's 24.1 millimeters. And it's 24.9, so it's about, 0.75 mils smaller or bigger, so that's a good thing. So we can draw our stencil on the meteorite and not worry about it being too big, because the stencil is a tiny bit smaller than the pendant size. So we have to make 2 of these now, since Nolan picked out one that requires double-sided, which is kind of cool. Maybe we'll dome it a little more to make it a little rounder, to give it kind of like a rounder meteorite kind of shape, and then it, spins. I don't know. This will turn out pretty cool. So yeah, let's do that. The first thing we need to do is we need to cut. I'm going to use my lapidary saw. I've cut metal on my lapidary saw before. It was softer metal. I'm not sure how this is going to do, but it's not a lot of material. So I'm hoping we can just get through it. Anyway, let's go try it right now. Okay, well, as you can see from the video, my worst nightmare happened. So we ended up having a piece break off of one of our slabs here. There is an impurity that is inside the meteorite that it's breaking along that line. And unfortunately, it runs through the entire thing. Here's the remaining piece that we had to work with. You can see it's running through there. But anyway, I'm going to see if I can get another slab. I might go on this side here. I might try this side. It looks like we can get one there. Barely. So let me take it back over to the saw and see if we can get one more slab out of this. This is nerve-wracking. Okay, we've gotten past that stage. That was super stressful. There was a major fracture going through this meteorite. There's this mineral, it's very, very brittle. Whatever that is, it was running right through the meteorite. Yeah, it just basically crumbled as I got to it in the saw. Hopefully during the next phases of grinding, we can avoid any more breakage, because if we do, then that's going to be catastrophic to the project. So the next thing we'll do is we'll draw our stencils on here. Also wanted to point out, now you can see the etch is gone. So that's basically what the metal looks like unetched. And we'll talk more about the etching process and why you get this pattern on the back, what it's called, and we'll go into that when we get to that stage. So anyway, let's move along in the video. Okay, so as you can see from the video, we used the Cab King to do some edge grinding. I'm happy with how it came out. We didn't have any major incidents with fractures or anything, but as you can see, we're not out of the woods yet. We do have some fractures there that we need to still contend with when we do the surface grinding, so we have to be very careful. This piece here is the one I'm most worried about, because you can see on this side, there's the slight fracture there, but if you look on the other side, it's very big. The integrity looks better on this side, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it in the setting this way, and we're going to try to grind away this when we dome it. So my goal is to dome the pieces in the pendant, so we're going to end up coming with 2 domed halves, and I'm hoping it's going to be like almost like a sphere. We're probably not going to get a perfect sphere when we're done, but that's my goal, is to have a sphere and then give it a nice meteorite finish when we etch it, and that'll be the finished product. So that's where we're going with this, and this is how far we are so far. So I'm happy with how we've gotten to this point. Before I go to the Cab King again, I will be grinding down the side that I will be sitting in the setting so that it's nice and flat. So I'm just going to grind that down now so that's done, so that when I finish the surface grinding, then it's ready to go in the setting. So I'm going to do that now. Okay, as you can see, we got the nice, shiny, flat surface bottom now to go into our bezels. And we'll go back to the Cab King now and do the surface grinding. Okay, we're done on the Cab King, and here are our two cabs, our two meteorite cabs. So this one is pretty straightforward. This one, however, you can see that fracture there with that brittle mineral running through it. That was stressful. It did not break because it doesn't run all the way through. You can see a little tiny sliver of it there, but it's much thicker on the top. But we were able to get it. It's pretty solid. I'm going to get the chemicals ready, and then I'm going to explain the etching process, and we're going to talk a little bit about the composition of this meteorite. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and etch our two meteorite cabs. But first, I'm just going to explain to you why we're going to etch it. So meteorites have a specific crystal pattern, and this crystal pattern is called the Widmanstätten pattern. Basically, what the Widmanstätten pattern is, you see, when this is the etched surface of the original piece of meteorite we had here, and you can see the different lines. There's a kind of a light color and a dark color. What those are they're iron nickel crystals. So the Munianalustan meteorite is an iron meteorite, but its primary composition is iron and nickel. So there's a couple of different iron nickel alloys in this meteorite, and you're seeing two of them here. You're seeing a longer, brighter crystal, and then you're seeing some darker crystals. Those are two different nickel iron alloys, and they etch differently, and that's why when you etch it, you see this pattern. These crystals can only grow in this way in certain conditions. For this particular meteorite, these crystals need millions of years to grow. These crystals have to be formed during very, very slow cooling. The cooling of the magma that these crystals originate from has to cool for millions of years at extremely low temperatures. We're talking like minus 800 Kelvin. So this particular crystal structure cannot be duplicated on Earth because we can't replicate those conditions. We can't replicate growing crystals for millions of years at that temperature. So that's why this is a one-of-a-kind phenomenon. So we're going to etch the surface. Now, I've been told the Widmanstätten pattern shows up better on polished surfaces, so that's why we polish these. I will give a warning, the next bit of the video we're going to be using acid and chemicals, and it's not recommended you try this at home unless you've done it before or have been shown by someone with experience. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how I do this, and then we're going to drop our two meteorite cabs in the etching solution to see if we can get that Widmanstätten pattern. Okay, so we're going to etch our meteorite cabs now. The first step we do is we drop it into this ferric chloride acid. This acid has a pH of about 1.8, and it's pretty nasty stuff, really hard to clean up. You know, I'm willing to do it for this video. We're going to drop it in here for about 10 to 15 minutes, take a look and see how the etch is doing. Then we're going to drop it in this solution of baking soda and water just to neutralize it a bit. Then we're going to wash the meteorites off in this rubbing alcohol, because we don't want water on the meteorites. The water will actually rust it, since it's, you know, an iron nickel alloy. So we're going to wash it off in alcohol so we get rid of all that water. Let's take a look to see how the etch does with this ferrochloric acid first. And just a safety tip, it's always great to wear PPE. I'm wearing a mask right now, and I'm also wearing these gloves just to protect my hands. So it's always good when working with chemicals like this to wear the proper PPE. Okay, so here are our our etched meteorite cabs. As you can see, they turned out great. You could definitely see the Widmanstätten pattern on there on both pieces. Our brittle metal material in here got eaten away by the acid a bit more. I made sure I cleaned out in there pretty well. Very happy with how this turned out. So you can see the cool Widmanstätten pattern on that. So I was going to do another chemical treatment on this, similar to how gunsmiths kind of darken the barrels of guns. I was going to do that to this material. Basically what it does is when you soak it in the compound, it puts a film of black rust over the metal. Now what that does is it provides a protective coating actually. Black rust is Fe3O4, which is a form of iron oxide, as opposed to red rust, which is Fe2O3. Red rust would eat away at this metal. The black rust doesn't. It just forms a layer on top of it, and it prevents the Fe2O3 from forming. So it's actually a kind of protectant. That's one reason why I was going to do it. The other reason was because it actually blackens the material, and you could still see the Widmanstätten pattern, but it's definitely not as good as what you would see here right now. So I think I'm going to elect to keep this as is and set it into the bezel that way. So I'm not going to go ahead and do the bluing. I'm going to go ahead and just keep these natural as is. I really like how they turned out. So let's go put it in the bezel now. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to super glue it with some really crazy CA that I have. It's like super binding. It doesn't let go at all over time, even when it gets wet. And I'm also going to try to curve the edges of the bezel over the edges of the meteorite. So let's try to set this in there now, and then we'll look at the final product at the end. Well, there's our finished meteorite pendant, and I'm very happy with how it turned out. Pretty much got what I was going for. Got that little kind of round meteorite looking shape. I think that fracture kind of adds a little bit of character. It's part of the rock, so I mean it's natural, right? That Widmanstätten pattern, yeah, I really love that. Really came out great on that. That's our Makers Challenge video this year, and I want to thank Theo Kellison for inviting us again this year. Always love taking part in these Makers Challenges and seeing what all the awesome YouTubers and the creators out there make. If you want to check out everybody else's Makers Challenge video, please get the link in the description of this video, and please go check out their videos. Lots of great stuff going on the channels there, lots of great creations you don't want to miss out. Anyway, thanks again. Everybody have a great week, and we will catch you on the next one.